All right, we have some breaking news this morning. It is 9:37 and we are given to understand that John O'Shea is going to be joining the Republic of Ireland coaching ticket. Obviously, we've been looking for a replacement as that extra coaching role alongside Stephen Kenny and Keith Andrews. Recently, Anthony Barry had been linked to a return, having left Belgium, but he's gone to Portugal. Barry was obviously replaced in the Irish staff by John Eustace, who was just there for a short window before he left to become the manager of Birmingham City, and then the job has been vacant since then. I think Stephen Rice, the chief analyst, had stepped up to fulfil some of those duties, but Stephen Kenny had been looking around for a replacement for Anthony Barry, and the news is breaking this morning here on OTB AM that we believe it's going to be John O'Shea who is coming in to join the coaching ticket. You're two Manchester United fans. Colm has rejoined us.
Joined you, yeah. That's exciting news, very exciting news for John O'Shea, Manchester United legend, Republic of Ireland legend, of course. And like pulling up trumps in the coaching world since his retirement, I believe he's going to be staying with Stoke City. This is going to be a dual job, kind of like what Roy Keane used to do at Aston Villa and Ireland. And I know from I know one player involved at Stoke City in the youth setup. I know his family, and they speak extremely highly of John O'Shea as a coach, both in terms of his tactical knowledge and nuance, and also his man management skills. So he seems to have an equally big coaching career ahead of him as he did on the pitch. And finally, I think the Anthony Barry void could be filled here by a very, very promising coach that obviously we're biased about, but really seriously does look like he has a future. And you hear that from a Stoke player who has nothing to do with the Irish setup. He's got an aura as well. Like, I think our current young players all know John O'Shea. They're like, well, this is the king of Gelsenkirchen. This is the guy who nutmegged Luis Figo, who scored that goal against Arsenal and didn't know how to celebrate. Like, he's a legend. So I think he did his UEFA Pro licence in December. So it's probably that kind of thing where you get the Pro licence done and straight away the FAI are like, well, you've ticked the boxes now, so come on in. And again, I know a League of Ireland coach who did his licence with O'Shea, and again, couldn't speak more highly of his just passion and knowledge for football, as beyond the fact that he was a legend for club and country. This guy seriously knows the game, like in the style that, say, a Graham Potter would be full of knowledge and come to the game without much of a professional background himself. But O'Shea actually has both. So look, this is very exciting, right ahead of the France game as well. Trying their best, like everybody really wants this Stephen Kenny era to be a success, regardless of whether you want Kenny to stay in the job or not. And the fact that we have a coach of this quality coming on board, especially when Damien Duff left, that was a big void in Anthony Barry, and now we have a coach that everyone's getting excited about too, and the fact that he's passionately joining this setup is a great start to the year. I was over at Reading in 2019 when O'Shea, that was his first year as a first team coach with Reading, and like they, similar to the Stoke story, they spoke in such positive terms about John O'Shea. They were like, no, this guy's brilliant. And that was his first year, I think, as a coach. So clearly he's cut his teeth under Jim Crawford at the 21s, cut his teeth at Reading and Stoke. He's ready. This is a big one. I would love to see his coaching side in action, but if you're going to base on anything, it's the fact in his playing career, I think he played in every single position on the pitch, including in goal against Tottenham and White Hart Lane. So you're definitely learning as you're going. You're picking up knowledge. You're saying he could teach Queevy and at least a base knowledge of absolutely everything, and a jack of all trades, but also a master of a few, by the sounds of it. Well, and it's exciting. And has worked under some very interesting managers and has seen managerial styles from every end of the spectrum. With John O'Shea, you were always hoping that he was going to get involved with the Ireland setup at some point, that his career was going to build to a point where something like this made sense. And so many of the players that we've seen get into management use their reputation to get a first team job, to get the managerial job straight away. John O'Shea hasn't done that. He's gone off and learned and taken his time and, gone down the divisions with his career, and has now seen what it's like to be in a world-class elite environment, Champions League winning level, to lower level football. And I think, he's going to have a much better understanding of what the requirements of the position are. I don't know. Obviously, it doesn't make a blind bit of difference where he comes from, but it's nice that an Irish legend is now part of that coaching ticket, and that we have links back all the way. We'll obviously hear from David Myler. David Myler played alongside him at club level as well, so we'll get some insight as to what kind of person he is. But the fact that he's played under Alex Ferguson, and now he's involved in the coaching setup, I'm not getting too carried away, but that's a good sign. He's picked up some things you'd imagine from Fergie over the years. I think it does matter where he comes from. It's reason to get excited about because of this phenomenal career he had, but also the fact that unlike, say, Stephen Gerrard and Frank Lampard, I'm not just picking on those two, he hasn't jumped straight into management. He's really learning the ropes from the start here, and he's done his work quietly so far. And for me, at the moment, this seems like a perfect progression to eventual management. And maybe he actually does just want to be a coach, and would see that progress in the next year. But at exactly a month out before the Latvia friendly on the 22nd of March, and then 5 days before the France game, we're suddenly looking in a far better position. And I know this is just one appointment today, but if this works out well, this is good for the squad.
My crystal ball is that the manager at the 2030 World Cup, for which Ireland will undoubtedly qualify as one of 48 teams in USA, Mexico and Canada, John O'Shea will be our manager.
Well, I think, if you're thinking in terms of well-run organisations, Connacht have today appointed somebody from within. It means that handover is seamless. Like, at some point in the future, there is now going to be somebody who will be an automatic candidate for the head coaching role or the manager's role or whatever the official title is whenever the Stephen Kenny era finishes. And I think this reflects really well on Stephen Kenny, because he knows that. Like, when we were talking before about potential candidates to replace Kenny, Chris Hughton's name will come up, and then the slew of English managers who might be available will come up, and everybody else. Like, there aren't a whole heap of qualified Irish candidates who are within the system. But John O'Shea's name was mentioned in dispatches, and so I think this reflects really well on Stephen Kenny, that he's willing to say, yeah, look, I understand that if I end up not being the manager, you're probably going to end up being the most likely candidate to replace me, but I have enough confidence in my ability, and I have enough confidence in your ability to help me to progress this team and get us to where we want to go. So I think it's positive from that perspective. I think you can't ignore this, but John O'Shea has a lot of support from the Irish football public and also from pundits, right? Much harder to slag off an Ireland setup when you're like, John O'Shea's in there and he's gone about this the right way. He's been a stand-up. He's been an absolutely stand-up guy throughout his entire career. There's nothing ever except anybody saying, great professional, great fella, never forgot his roots, never forgot who he was, absolutely was humble, and at the same time, one of our best and most important players for the best part of a decade. Like, I think, it's a really important, but also not important as important as just how good he's going to be at the job, which obviously we don't know just yet. But I do think it's going to help galvanise Irish football through a difficult period, because this group, as everybody says, even Richard Dunn in the paper says, look, this group, we would not have fancied this even when we had the best team that we had.
Yeah, that's 100%. They like that Irish Euro 2012 squad. Like, a lot of them have gone into. You look at John O'Shea, Keith Andrews, John Walters. Like, a lot of them have gone. David Myler as well has been involved in Irish underage setups. So a lot of them are heading into.
And is involved.
And is like a lot of them are going into coaching. I don't know if this is a trend of previous iterations of the Irish team, but it seems like a lot of that group have gone into coaching as opposed to media. They're all doing their little bits of media here and there as well, but it seems to be a lot of pro licenses and badges being done by that group, which is a good sign.
Yeah, well, O'Shea, look, he hit the ground running. He finished up his playing career at Reading and went straight into coaching there. I'd be really interested to hear what Michael O'Neill would have to say about his tenure at Stoke when he appointed him, and just to hear from other people. And I know we will over the coming days and weeks about just what type of kind of acumen he's actually bringing to the cause beyond the name John O'Shea. And I think that the person who's least interested in the name of John O'Shea is John O'Shea himself, and he actually really does want to get involved and progressing as a coach. So look, it's exciting, and it's a perfect build-up to the match, which is exactly a month away.
Yeah, because I think there had been a long lingering kind of, what's the story with this? So we got really high-end coaches to come, and that's why they were leaving. It wasn't that they were leaving, obviously whatever happened with Duffer, which I still don't fully understand exactly what happened with Duffer, but again, Damien Duff, a galvanising figure, and then he gets replaced by Anthony Barry, who's still at Chelsea, right? And is also going to be with Portugal, so very high end. And then Eustace is so good that he gets a job straight away. And I think people are using this as a stick to be Kenny with, he can't get his backroom team finalised. Like, well, that's because he keeps getting really good people. That's what happens. And he was able to attract them in the first place. So look, the culture war, hopefully this is like a little truce that we have now when it comes to the future of Irish football. And I think O'Shea is staking his reputation here to be part of this, and I think that's a good sign, and we wish him all the best. I'm excited about it.
You'll have to update his LinkedIn. Right here I have John O'Shea, first team coach, Stoke City Football Club. Well, you can add another one now.
Change it up.
Yeah.
So we of course have reached out to the FAI for confirmation of this, but our information is well sourced at this point that we expect John O'Shea to be linking up as the new coach with the Republic of Ireland senior national team.
In fact, that's France coming up as well. Like the 2009 memories, John O'Shea will remember. We all know what happened, and he'll want his revenge.
Did miss a sitter against France, of course. Is that what you were talking about?
No, we'll not talk about that. Forget about it.
A chance to exercise some demons, I believe they call it in sporting cliche world. Right, that's the breaking news this morning, that we expect John O'Shea to be ratified as a member of the backroom team for Stephen Kenny.